Hello friends, family, esteemed colleagues. We are going to be trashing Soyence, which I basically do through most of my videos. And this one is going to be devoted to trashing Randle Cycle and any other cycle designated or explaining when will cell choose to use glucose as a fuel and when will cell choose fat, because this is all there is about this popular so-called Randle Cycle cycle. Now again, to explain for people who are not aware of this, and to explain how did it come up that the Randle cycle and similar cycles were created. It is something to be expected when scientists or those who investigate how things work around us use a faulty premise, and then they try to improve on it. When you work with lie, all you can improve is add to the lie. You cannot turn lie into truth, because there is none. So, what do I mean by this? We are being told by our cathedra, which means the accepted science of biology or medicine, that our bodies can be equally fueled by fat or by glucose. By fueled, I mean produce energy on a cellular level. We have been told that mitochondria will produce energy, but mitochondria can use to produce energy two sources or two storages. One is a storage that contains fat and use the fat to then convert in the mitochondria into energy. And the other one is to use glucose from deposit of starch, and in the mitochondria, same way, convert it into energy. Even the same cycle is being used, so-called Krebs cycle or citric acid cycle. It's the same damn thing. Now, there is a benefit of burning glucose. The benefit is, first, it can be done anaerobically. So if the cell has a problem being oxygenated, it's no problem for it to produce energy, because if glucose is available, it will do it. And we know that cancer, for example, cannot accept oxygen because it has such a high pressure of carbon dioxide that oxygen cannot replace it or displace it. So the only way the cancer cell or cell of tumor, American tumor, can produce energy is using glucose, because glucose in its molecule contains hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen. So under enzymes within a mitochondria, it can simply let go of hydrogen and just double bond carbon, creating carbon dioxide and free energy hydrogen. This you can do from glucose, but when as far as fat is concerned, there is no oxygen. Yeah, there is carboxyl group, but carboxyl group there is one carboxyl group and long chain of carbons loaded with hydrogen. And this is the hydrogen that has to be liberated from carbon and actually replaced by oxygen. And it is happening in mitochondria. But where does the oxygen come from? Well, there is a difference, as I have explained already in my other videos, when I describe the function of glucose in human body. I also described that plants use this process. So mitochondria of a plant simply absorbs glucose, converts it into energy and carbon dioxide. And then carbon dioxide it can further use to produce oxygen if it's daytime, because it needs photosynthesis. And at night it just releases it. But animals and human, we are animals, our mitochondria cannot produce energy from fat unless oxygen is pushed in. This is why every animal has a fat storage to store fat as a spare fuel in a case there is no time to eat. And then to create energy from it. As fat is delivered into the mitochondria, well, oxygen has to be squirted in. So mitochondria of animal cells and humans has oxygen pump that pumps in oxygen in this reaction. This is why animals have lungs and they have to breathe, they have to provide this oxygen. Otherwise, they will not have oxygen for this reaction. Plants don't have lungs, they don't need to do this. And this is just proof after proof showing that human body should always be in ketogenic state, which means using fat as energy source, as cellular energy source. And when fat is delivered, then the oxygen is pushed into mitochondria. Then this oxygen bonds in carbon, 2 oxygen for 1 carbon, and releases hydrogen. Carbon dioxide is then displaced by oxygen from our blood, and we exhale it, and hydrogen remains, which is like electron, which is the energy, the electricity that is remaining as a cellular energy. Now, we are being told that animals are in ketogenic state. A human baby, when it's on mother's milk, is in ketogenic state, which means as long as a human is using animal fats and animal proteins as a source of energy, it will remain in ketogenic state. And it will be using fat in a process of energy production, in a Krebs cycle. Now, knowing all this, and knowing that every freaking animal is in ketogenic state, even insects, okay? They all have fat and they all run in ketosis. Human, when it's eating correctly, it's running in ketosis. But all of a sudden, we have to go into glucoholic state and start providing glucose to the body so that body can live correctly, because somehow we have accepted some idiotic statement that humans should be in glucoholic state, that ketogenic state is a bad, unhealthy state for human. Because God forbid, when you are fasting, you are putting yourself in danger. Your body goes into ketogenic state as soon as you stop providing glucose. And whoa, you can even get ketonuria. Well, this may happen one day and that's it. After that, you can fast 2 weeks, 3 weeks, month, 2 months, 3 months, depending how fat you are, how much fat reserves you have, and you will be in ketogenic state. And not only that, you will feel good, but your body starts healing of any problems that you may have. But no, this is something to be neglected. This is unimportant, because Soyence of medicine is teaching us those stupid books that Rockefellers are pushing and that all medical students have to learn from, are stating that we should not be in ketogenic state. This is a bad thing for us. And we are such morons that we just accept it, bah, sheep. And because of this, now scientists want to prove how the body works. When does a cell choose? Because it's obvious that we can, and we are burning fat as well, and we are burning glucose, sugar, because it's available. And now we have to figure out, when does the cell choose to burn fat and when it chooses to burn glucose. For example, brain is very energy hungry, and it really works better on glucose. You may have energy problem, energy deficit. You get tired, you cannot focus, you cannot concentrate. Little piece of chocolate, a cracker, piece of bread, in few minutes you are ready to go. So you see, brain needs glucose. So how does cell decide which fuel to use? Well, Soyence is now showing us Randle Cycle, in which he shows in formulas how the process goes and how the cell will decide when to use glucose and when to use fat. And this becomes very important cycle. Many scientists are sticking to it, and this is being taught now in school. Not when I was studying 50 years ago, but now everybody's talking about the importance of Randle Cycle. Well, let's just examine a little bit further. we always have sugar, glucose, in our blood. The normal levels are about 70 to 90. This is a range. Milligrams or milliliter. But when we are in this low sugar, cells do not absorb sugar from the blood. And this is obvious when you are fasting. When we are fasting, the sugar levels stabilize correctly in that range, 70, 75, 80. And your cells are working on fat. Now, how come that now, all of a sudden, Randle Cycle does not work? Because Randle Cycle is pure bullshit. Same like all the other cycles designated or to demonstrate how tissues are choosing which fuel to use. Tissues have no capacity to choose because body is not conscious. It is running on programs. And our body is programmed to run on fat. And we have a sugar in the blood, low level, because cells needed to produce amino acids and to produce proteins. They need carboxyl group. So when they need it, they send glucoprotein transporter to bring it in because they don't need a lot of it. They grab a couple molecules to do the job. So when we are eating correctly, blood sugar is stable and cells do not absorb sugar, only through transporting mechanism. Same as if you have a sugar in your intestine because you ate something, the amount that will be absorbed into the blood depends on a level of glut. When you eat correctly, you don't receive any starches because naturally, like banana or potato that you can eat or fruits, they have starch, but starch in nature is always separated from animals and from us through membrane of cellulose. So you don't have access to it. You cannot digest cellulose. So it just passes through your body. So as long as we are not poisoning ourselves with the starches, our body is running on fat. As long as we are eating correctly. Raw food like every other animal does, we are fine. As you can eat banana as much as you can. You can eat potatoes as many as you can if they are raw, because all the starches within a cell, which plants cellular membranes are made out of cellulose. So there is nothing that your cell can decide, okay, no, I'm not going to use fat, I'm going to use the sugar, because it cannot absorb it. What it needs transported, it's a very slow absorption. Your cell cannot receive enough to burn, and it's not designed to do that. Once when it is on a transporter brings it into the cell and places it exactly in a place where it has to go. It doesn't go into mitochondria. It's not being used to make fuel from it. This is why when baby is on mother's milk, it's being fed through fat in the milk. Now they say, oh, here's It has lactose. I've explained again through faulty Soyence that teaching us that in our intestines, lactose is going to break into galactose and glucose. Because chemically, you can design it. You can make on a paper, you can make this reaction. But this is not what is happening. This is why I say, ditch the stupid biochemistry. It's made to mislead us. Because what actually is happening is that under influence of lactase enzyme, lactose is converted into fiber. And this is what gives that mushiness to a baby poop. Because baby only drinks liquid. Where does the fiber comes that creates the mushiness? From lactose. We do not absorb lactose. And of course there's, but I drink milk and my blood sugar jumps. Yeah, but milk also contains growth hormone and steroid because it's meant for a young growing organism to stimulate growth. Stimulate fast growth. And this is why these hormones are in there. And when we take this hormone, well, we know that steroid is going to activate glycogen. It's going to break the bond, and liver is going to shoot out some sugar. Again, as additional energy, so the organism grows faster. But it's meant for babies. We can drink it, but our sugar is going to jump a little bit. It's not a big deal. It is not going to create diabetes. Because again, the level that we receive is small. It's not huge. It's just that little booster. And this is why I always say that glycogen holds booster fuel for when we are in a tight corner, when we have to think quickly to find solution, and we depend on muscles to save our tush, either to run or fight. This is when our liver will shoot out a lot of glucose because we'll break down the glycogen, shoot it in the blood to support the body in this fight for life. And as soon as blood sugar level goes up, it triggers switch for release of insulin because cells don't want to take it. You can raise the sugar up to kazoo. Cells will not take it unless they are forced to. And insulin is the one that forces them to absorb it. And when they're absorbing it, well, now huge amount comes and cell goes, wow, yeah, okay, I can now burn it. And when it does it, it's explosive fuel because the reaction starts anaerobically and then oxygen is shut in. So you get pow, explosion, huge amount of energy in short time. And cell burns quickly the glucose. So as it's burning glucose, there is no chance to burn fat because to make energy from fat, it's a longer process. You first have to turn it into ketones and then use the ketones in a process. It's a long process. This is why every cell in the human body has huge amount of mitochondria, 2,000 and more. Brain, even more. Because organ that needs more oxygen will have more mitochondria. And it will be producing more energy using more fat. But once when you start regularly providing glucose, forcing it on the body, and the only ways you can do it, either keep the body in a shock every day, or giving it glucose already broken free of cellulose, putting it in your diet. And this you do when you're processing plants, especially grain. You break the shell, which is the cellulose, and inside the white thing you put in the water, you mix it, the white stuff, this is starch, which converts in your digestion into glucose, which you are absorbing. Bread is starch. Cooked potatoes is starch. Cooked banana is starch. You are breaking the cellular membrane in which the starch is held to be separated from animals. You are breaking it, and now it becomes available. Heat will break it, 55 degrees Celsius and more, it's gonna do the job. It's gonna break it. I showed it on popcorn. And as soon as the blood sugar level increases, it triggers the sensor saying, whoops, insulin. So it is not that insulin is secreted so absorption of sugar occurs. It's a nonsense. We have to forget about biochemistry and stop inventing things. You see, what is science? We work with information we have, and then we try to prove certain things to gain more information, and we call this science. But if the information you start with is faulty, then you are trying to prove something that doesn't exist. And we have so many chemical reactions we have proven in a body exist. How did we prove them? On a paper. You sit down, you are being told that there is a particular valency in every cell, so you know carbon, how many bonds it can have, you know oxygen, how many bonds, you know hydrogen, how many bonds, you know phosphor, how many bonds, and then you start making it up on paper. Okay, if this goes, this has this, you can bomb it, you go, okay, I got formula, okay, this can be done. Okay, I'm missing something that, so you invent. Oh, we need enzyme for this. Okay, so there is enzyme this and this that will do that. Okay, we are done. It's the same like in the physics. When you try to prove mathematically something that is not really the way you think it is, so you are proving until a certain level, and then the final result is always off a little bit. So you figure out, well, always I'm off for a certain number. Let's say number 10 is always missing. Okay, so we'll call it constant and we'll just add it to it. And all of a sudden, we have constants in all our problems. You just put constant in there. And you have perfect formula. But it's all fake and it's all wrong, because if you need to invent constant, you are on the wrong track. Nassim Haramein just peed on all the freaking physicists, showing them the truth mathematically without constants. We are being enslaved, and our brains have been enslaved. And as soon as you start thinking, the Soyence falls apart. But this cannot happen because you will then figure many other things. For example, that diseases don't exist. And this is big no-no. So this is multi-billion-dollar industry. You think that they will let it slide? No way, Jose. So luckily, we can now be a little bit more open about this. Well, I'm pushing the truth out already for 20 years, and I was threatened, they tried to bribe me. I politely refused. I like my hide. And of course they let me slide because I have very small following. So I'm not a threat to them. Well, it's a divine wish. Because I don't care how many people follow my work. I simply want to push out the truth. And of course, as a scientist, I should be stimulated to do this work. Well, the only stimulation goes to faulty science. I can very easily make a lot of money just to start pushing out the nonsensical climate change, and I can just skew a little bit the truth just to make it a little closer to the truth, but again not enough so nothing can be figured out, and I will become Nobel Prize winner very quickly. But this is not what I'm here for. I'm a light worker. I'm here to show you the truth. More than so, I'm here to open your eyes, to open your mind, so you can liberate yourself. And I'm guided because this knowledge I did not know. I was like any other doctor, misled, and I was so disillusioned that I left the field of medicine for a while, and my brain sailed the world, lived on a boat, doing some charters, until I was summoned back into this field because time came when I had to be activated and do what I came here to do. And this is to show the truth and open people's minds. And mine too. I am being guided. I don't channel. It's a different process. It's like remembering, and someone is helping me to remember. It just, when I see the truth somewhere, it could be not related. It immediately resonates and I know where to put it. I know how I can use this and where to put it. That's remembering. So here I'm simply showing that there is a huge amount of nonsensical Soyence in medicine, which doctors have to memorize, and they try to make sense out of nonsense. No matter how many wrongs you put together, you can never come up with the right. It's always wrong. There is many versions of lies, but there is only one truth. There are no versions of truth. But since we are only living in lies and we only know lies, when truth is exposed, the first reaction is, "Pam, bullshit. This cannot be. Who is this guy?" Well, this is what I get. I'm being sent back to school. Doctors and scientists laugh at me. That I studied in Zagreb. Yeah, who heard of Zagreb? Well, those schmucks don't know that the whole science is corrupt and controlled by the same people, and no matter where you study, could be in Zimbabwe, it could be in Kenya, it could be in Morocco, it could be in New York, could be in Vienna. You learn the same stupid Soyence. Little bit of truth, smothered with lot of bull. So, Randle Cycle, you can write the formula on a paper and wipe your behind with it, because that's what I think of it. Body is made to run on fat, and as long as we eat correctly, it is going to run on fat. As soon as you provide pure starch, not only to human body, you do it to dog, to cat, same will happen. You are going to start reprogramming their genes. They get addicted to sugar, because sugar is highly addictive. They will even not want to, well, they still like to snack on a meat. But I see my dogs that regularly eat meat every day. When my friend comes with his dog and they bring a little bit of dry food for him, my dogs get crazy for this dry food. They jump on it and their dog jump on their meat. But there is such a high drive for sugar because brain loves sugar. This is why plants produce sugar to entice us to eat their fruits. So we spread the seeds. But we don't get anything in return except we feel great because it was nice and sweet and juicy. No energy from there. And yes, again, now you have people saying energy, food has no energy. Well, calories. Food has no calories because calorie is a thermal effect. How much heat you need to raise a temperature of something for 1 degree Celsius. You know, guys, stick Soyence where sun doesn't shine. It is about the meaning. When we think caloric value, we mean energetic value. And energy, not in a term of raising a temperature of water, but actually how much energy is needed to raise the temperature, for 1 degree Celsius. And this energy inside of our cells is hydrogen, but the source of it comes from either glucose or comes from fat, nothing else. Protein cannot be burned. Burnt means used as a caloric value because mitochondria has no mechanism to do it. Mitochondria can also convert fat into glucose and glucose into fat, which happens in the liver, but also happens in every cell of our body that produces glycogen. So it's not every cell, it's every muscle and brain cell, because they can make glucose and create glycogen, and they use fat for it. They do not take the glucose that we eat to turn it, to bond it in a protein and make glycogen. This is a lie. This is misunderstanding of the human body. There are so many freaking lies that once when you start using the Kugel and you start thinking, you just cannot believe how you didn't see it before. So much junk we have to learn and memorize that's just pure garbage and only serves us to misunderstand things. And then whenever we present something, we found some chemical way we can present it on a board that would work, and it's important because it can smear people's eye, bingo, you got Nobel Prize for this. Because they want you to focus, everybody, focus on that, this is very important, this is pure garbage. Okay, my friends, so cells do not decide which fuel to use. They are programmed to use fat, but if blood sugar rises over the designated level, over the radar, what I call it, it will trigger insulin release, which will force glucose into the cell. And this is when you are taking the cell from ketogenic into glucoholic state. And those who are eating carbohydrates daily in larger quantities, their metabolism switches from ketogenic into glucoholic. If you have small level of glucose coming in, it will not kick you out of ketosis. Your blood sugar has to jump over 100, over 110 before insulin is released. So if that doesn't happen, you're not releasing insulin and you remain in ketogenic state. You can have as many fruits as you want. You will remain in ketogenic state, especially if you do not regularly eat starches, because your GLUT level is low, your absorption is low. Again, nobody talks about GLUT level, about absorption. They just give you caloric values. Okay, you see, you eat potatoes and this is your caloric value. Yeah, but if you eat potato raw, the calorie value is going to be 0 because none of it you can absorb. Well, nobody tells you this. There is not single one, what do they be? So many professions. Dietitian that knows the difference between cooked and raw foods. Actually, how this works. And we all are being told, as doctors know diddly squat about diet or about water. We are completely disconnected. And your dietitians, your expert on nutrition, nutritionists, they have been brainwashed with this stupid nonsense. They have no clue about anything. They still tell you, if you are a little chubby and you ask, can I eat fruit? Yeah, but don't eat bananas because bananas have a lot of glucose and you can eat as many bananas as you want, as much fruit as you want. If you are heavy, if you don't eat other starches, if you just eat raw starches, you start losing fat like crazy because your metabolism is running, energy is being drawn from metabolism, and you get doodle squat out of this, what you are eating, because the starch is trapped in a cellulose which you cannot digest, and you are pooping all that stuff out. Yeah, a little bit maybe converted through your gut flora, but it takes time. Fermentation takes time. So in lower, basically in colon, the fermentation can occur, but absorption of nutrients, especially sugar, is in upper part of small intestine, right below stomach. As soon as food is pushed a little bit lower, even if you convert it, it doesn't get any more absorbed. This is why dogs love to eat human poop. They get more energy from the poop than we get from the food that you ate if it was raw vegetable or fruit. Cooked and processed, yeah, you eat pure starch. You convert it into glucose and more often you eat it, more glucose you are producing, and less and more sugar is forced and more frequently is forced into your cells. Now it's causing overcharge because too many mitochondria then produce too much energy. So you start shutting mitochondria. Instead of 2,000, you have 500. And then we say, well, you see, his cells are using more glucose and less fat because of Randle Cycle. Bull. We just have to understand the principles, how the body works, and we are being misguided in this. And of course, if you don't know your base, everything else is pure hogwash. It's meaningless. You cannot resolve anything, no matter how much brain work you put into it. If your premises are wrong, you will never get to the correct conclusion. Never, ever. Okay, thank you for listening. I'm having fun with this because it's just mind-boggling that even today neurosurgeons, and they still keep saying that we need glucose, the brain cannot work without glucose. When we know that baby works beautiful with a mind when it's on mother's milk. What screws us up when we start going into glucoholic state? Because then fuel is available only while we are eating, because we don't have reserve from which to draw sugar. So only when you eat, sugar is available. When you stop eating, half hour later, there is no more sugar. Cell needs energy. The body provides triglyceride, fat. But now you don't have 2,000 mitochondria per cell. You have 500, 600. So you produce quarter of the necessary energy. Not nearly enough. Your brain is suffering. You cannot concentrate unless you munch on something. So doctor said, you see, you need glucose. Well, you need glucose when you're in a glucoholic state. You have to snap out of it. So number of mitochondria increases. It's all supply and demand. Body is freaking robot. It will align itself towards the circumstances. Sensors will sense, and genetically we adjust. That's it. Thank you for listening. Love you all. Until next time, God bless us all. Namaste.